Welcome to Rhino Exploration. My name is Zach, and today we are doing another product review. We are going to be reviewing the dome lights from Auxito LED. So stay tuned, guys. So just over a month ago, back at the end of February, I was contacted by Auxito LED to do a collaboration with them. And after doing research into their site and into their company and what they provide, I decided to do it. And I had the opportunity to choose any product off of their site and test it and review it for you guys to share with you. So I combed their site up and down, and what they have a lot of is they focus in the realm of LED lights for all types of vehicles, from headlights to fog lights to accessory lights, from ground, from rock lights to dome lights to all sorts of other things. And I decided that I wanted to stick in the realm of overlanding, thinking of nothing more than what can I use for lighting at camp. Because my Jeep already has LED fog lights and headlights, I didn't really want to test any other lights because I am super happy with the ones I have. I already have rock lights, and I already have bumper lights and a few other things. But the one thing I did not have is I had no lighting solution for when I was at camp besides my lantern. I had no built-in lighting system that I could, when I pull up the camp, pull everything out, start cooking, and it gets dark, I can flip a switch and there they are, and they're on. I didn't have that. So what I chose to go with was their 12-volt interior light bars with the on and off switch. So it comes in a pack of 2. So what I thought that meant was you was gonna get 2 different light bars. That was gonna be it. No, you get 2 packages, and each package has 2 light bars in it. So you get a combination of 4 different lights. So they came with on and off switches and pre-wired. What I mean by pre-wired is they had the positive and negative. It was already wired to the light bar, so you didn't have to solder anything. But the wires were only so long, and the ends were already stripped, so you didn't have to try and cut it. So all it was kind of wire up, plug and play. It also came with adhesive strips, some super strong 2-sided adhesive strips. You stick one side on the light and the other side on the surface you want to put the light. And it pretty much gave me the creative freedom to create my own light bars. Having those 4 different light bars allowed me to stick them in different places, because they were each their own separate light bar that had to be wired to wherever you wanted to wire it, and it had its own on and off switch. So I had the creative freedom to take it and design it in the back of the Jeep how I wanted it and how I wanted my light sources to be. And I thought that would be really cool to take this product, test it, review it, and share it with you guys, because I think this will help solve a lot of this will help solve the problem of trying to have light at camp. Because a lot of people either have a do-it-yourself light bar that they've bought on Amazon, they created, all the materials, they created it, and it was DIY all the way. There are other companies that do make light bars that are kind of specific to overlanding, that can go in the back window or in certain parts of the Jeep, but they tend to be really expensive, or it's a one size fits in one dedicated place, and it's really hard to kind of move it around. With these, the light bars are only so big, and because there's 4 of them and they're LED, they provide a ton of light, guys. A ton of light. And I found that I had the ability to put them in the places that I wanted to. So let me get into some more of the specifications of these products, and then I will get into where I installed them on the Jeep, how the installation process went, because it was fairly straightforward, but it did take some time. And I want to give you my thoughts and opinions on how these lights are working. Alright guys, so here are some of the specifications of these light bars. I'm going to read you these specifications off of the Auxito website just because it was a lot to try and remember. And for the life of me, I have a memory of remembering the most useless things in the world. I'm a plethora of useless knowledge, but give me fine specific details that kind of aren't useless and informational for other people, and I tend to forget them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you their specifications off of their website, and then we will get into where I kind of stuck them in the Jeep and everything else that I just mentioned. Okay, so these are a white LED light. So they're not amber, they're not red, they are a white light that shines, okay? They have a 50,000 hour work life. So they consist of 108 LEDs. Each light has 108 LEDs in it. And has an IP67 waterproof seal. So the dome that protects it, the whole thing is waterproof. And its voltage is about 12 to 80 volts. I don't need this to tell you that the light bars did come with brackets, so you did get 4 brackets in each box, 2 for each light, and the screws. So if you wanted to, in a sense, not use the sticky, the adhesive tape, because they provided you 2 pieces of adhesive tape, 1 each light, so 4 pieces. If you didn't want to use the adhesive tape and you wanted to hard mount them with the brackets, you had that ability to, or you had the tape to use the adhesive way and stick them in that way. And it produces 2200 lumens of light. That is the range in which it says it produces, okay? Those are the specifications for these lights. It is a DC 12 volt power system light, so if you wanted to, you could wire it into like a cigarette plug thing, plug it into the back of the Jeep, the back of your rig, wherever you have it. If you have one of those, you can make it into a plug, whatever you wanted to do to wire it, that is what you could do, but you need at least 12 volts to make them work. And they are super, super bright, guys, which we will get to here in a second. So let's get into where I installed them in the Jeep and the whole installation process. So as you guys can see, I installed them in 4 different locations. The first 2 being on the rear of the glass, being on the tailgate glass. So as you all know, on a Jeep, tailgate opens, glass goes up, and I wanted light on my work surface. So right here is the tailgate table, and generally when I'm at camp, I got the tailgate table, I've got the back of the Jeep, and I have my table here, and this is how I cook. So I wanted light that was going to shine directly onto my cooking area. So where was I going to put it? Well, I didn't want them to run across the back here, because you have, not only do you have the windshield wiper here, I could put one here and it's going to shine out here, and I could have put the other one here or on the sides. So I originally thought, let's put them both on the side. I could have the light like this. This one lined up really nicely on the side. This side, not quite so much. The way the glass kind of bows a little bit, it wasn't going to have a nice enough seal onto the back for the adhesive, so I decided to not put it there. So I decided to put it here. Now I tested all these to make sure that when I closed the glass, it didn't impede with anything, break the glass, it wasn't going to do any of that. So they all worked great. So I stuck them here, and the purpose was this light was to shine onto the tailgate table. So I always had consecutive light here, and this light was to shine down on the table that would be out here in the back of the Jeep here, so that I had, and on my surroundings on the floor, so I had kind of more of a lighting area. And they work great. As you guys can see, the on-off switch on it makes it super, super simple to turn them on and off. I don't have to have them all on, I don't have to have them all off. And I really like that feature that I can do that. And they provide a ton of light. Like this whole surface in the garage is now lit up, and it is great. Now I did stick the other 2 in the rear of the Jeep. So let's go look. So there they are, guys. So they are actually installed just behind the roller bar. So you have the kind of the roll cage in the Jeep. They are stuck onto the fiberglass top on the inside, which I'll get you a clearer shot here in just a second. and I stuck them both, and they're both angled, and they provide light directly into the back of the Jeep. So when I am at camp, if I get somewhere late and I need to get things out, if I'm cooking and let's say I have these on, but I've got things pointed out here, I can flip these on and I can see inside my totes. I can see inside the back of the Jeep itself. It provides a ton of light in there. So when I was there in Moab at night, I could flip the switches and I could see everything I wanted to see inside the back of the Jeep, get out my things for my tent, my cooking. I didn't have to, because I didn't pull every tote out. I had some of them left in there, so I wasn't just relying on these. So if I leave this light on, yes, it lights up part of the back of the Jeep, but anything further back behind the driver's seat or further back in the totes on the back towards the front of the Jeep, it's a little dark still and you get shadows. I flip those on and there's no more darkness. Works great, I can see everything. It's like, there's the light, ah! So, I really like where I placed them, and I thought long and hard on it. So that brings me to the installation process. It took me 4.5 hours to install these lights. Now, probably 2 hours of that was me fiddling on where I wanted to place the light. I thought long and hard about all my placements of where I was going to put the lights, and it was a lot of trial, error. Do I like it here? Do I like it there? Do I want it here? Do I want it there? Da, 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 da. And I figured it out. I was being a little indecisive. I just wanted the best outcome, and I think I found that for my purposes. So next came the wiring process. Now, some assembly required is what I would say. It doesn't necessarily tell you that on the website. It doesn't necessarily tell you that on the instructions. But some wiring is required. So they, like I said, they provide you the wiring to the light, and it is already stripped. You then must wire it yourself into wherever you wanted your power source. So I spent time wiring the lights together to my wires and made sure the wires were long enough to run them to where I wanted. So what I ended up doing was I took the light, wired them to the wires, and I left the wires at honestly a decent amount of length so that you can put them wherever and I could wire them however I wanted, like running the wires. Because I made it nice and clean in here. These wires are not really seen in the Jeep at all, and I wanted them clean, tucked up out of the way, and looking nice. So that's what I did. So I wired them all first, and then I had to figure out where I wanted to wire them into. So let's kind of go sit inside the Jeep and I will show you how and where I wired them. Now we're in the back of the Jeep some. As you guys know, Jeeps have a little 12 volt DC outlet right there. So I thought, let's use that to power the lights. I didn't want to run wires to my aux beam switches as I didn't want to have to press a button to turn them all on. I didn't want to run them straight to the battery because that means I got to run wires either through the bottom of the Jeep or all the way across the interior of the Jeep through the firewall to the battery. I just didn't want that. So I wanted to somehow utilize this 12 volt, but I wanted to leave the 12 volt available for other things. Because one day I will have a fridge, one day I will have a few other things, and I want to be able to utilize this. Because I could easily bought a little 12 volt thing, wired them all to it, and plugged it into there and left it always plugged in. The other reason I didn't do that is because if you leave it plugged in, now you don't have kind of flat surface. So when I put things back here, break, you kind of get my drift. The little plug would break, and I don't really want to break a plug that's wiring to my lights or damage this. So what I did was I removed this whole panel. This whole panel I removed. So I had to remove here, take this off. This is a plastic piece. Undo this. I had to remove this, slide all this out. And the reason I did that was it exposes the 12 volt behind it and the wires that run to it to provide it the power. And what I ended up doing, turn you this way, hi. What I ended up doing was splicing into the power supply for this. Now I didn't do it half rear. I actually pulled out the wiring, exposed the wires, cut the wires, and then I rewired it. So this is still wired up and running through its power supply. And I also have wires that ran up this way to provide power to the lights. So they're all running off of the same power, because in a Jeep, unless you change it in the fuse box, the rear always has power no matter whether the Jeep is on or off. You can change it in the fuse box, but I have left it at the factory standard of it's always got power in the back of the Jeep. And I figured that is how I'm going to supply power to my lights. So it was a bit of a process. So the other thing I had to consider was this top comes off on a Jeep. Everything that's wired back here between the windshield wiper fluid, and any kind of lights that run in the Jeep all come disconnected in the back. So I didn't want to just wire up the lights and not be able to disconnect the lights if I wanted to ever take the top off. So I did make this a quick disconnect system so that they're always plugged in, and when I want to remove the top, I just disconnect those wires as well, and they can sit with all the other wires when I remove the top, and then I can quickly reconnect them like everything else. So I had a long time of kind of thinking about that. The whole wiring process to do the Jeep was what took the other 2 hours. Because once I had the lights wired, I took the adhesive tape and I stuck them in their spots, because I had all the long wires, and then the wiring process of running the wires throughout the Jeep started. All right, guys, we switched to my phone here because it is a little bit easier to show you guys how I wired these things. So, right here is the wires. You can kind of see them right up there, and I have them in this nice little sheath that makes it kind of look like it was factory put there. It makes it nice and clean. So how did I wire this light and the light right here that runs off the very bottom? Because this light runs through this sheath here, up in here. So, can I zoom this out? There we go. So as you guys can see, this is the windshield wiper wiring. Actually, this is the windshield wiper this is the windshield wiper fluid wiring and hose, and this one is the windshield wiper wiring. Well, in the back of the Jeep, if your Jeep came with the kind of factory headliner and side liners, everything runs right behind here, and it is kind of taped in place behind this, but it has this nice little groove. I ran these wires into this groove along here, and they meet here, and then I run them down behind here, and I'll pull this off in just a second. With these two wires, or lights, I'm sorry, these two lights, these wires are here. They are a little exposed because it was a little hard to get a little thing on there, but I ran them through the shielding here, up and down into here. And then this light, I have it in its sleeve, run it here, and I run it right up through this groove here, into here, and it connects with all the others running down over there. Okay? And then, as I stated before, all these wires, so right behind here is typically the disconnect spot. All these wires connect and disconnect right here and run through this wiring sleeve here, into here, which connects to the back of the 12 volts. So this power supply runs like this through here. I have them connected all right in here, and that is how I get my power. So let's go ahead and pop this off, and I will show you guys my disconnect solution and how they kind of are wired at the moment. Okay guys, I've pulled back that panel and I removed the little sleeves that I have that cover up these wires, but these are how they are wired. Don't judge me on my coloring of wiring. I know what is what. Everything that's positive is red and yellow. Everything that is negative is black. I ran out of red wiring, so I used what I had till my new wiring comes in. But they are connected here, so these right here are my power supply. Negative, positive. These connect into this same sleeve. This is my quick disconnect system, and they're in there nice and tight until I pull them out. And this provides the positive, this provides the negative, and then we have power going to the lights. So when I want to, remove the top, all I do is pull these, take off the, the coverings I have over them, pull them out, and now they are disconnected. And then I can easily just let those wires fall with these, and then I can easily reconnect them. But they sit nicely right behind this sleeve, and they're tucked up, as you can see, tucked up out of the way, protected from the elements, and just aren't seen. And it makes it look really, really clean in here, and I really like that clean factor. Now, cutting into this system here was actually fairly straightforward. Once I got the panel removed, so once this panel was removed, I just took the wire, cut it with significant amount of wiring still there on each side, and rewired them. And I wired them together, heat shrank them, wrapped them, protected them, they're all good to go. And it provides the same amount of power here as here, and there's no interruption. I made sure there was zero interruption between if I plug something into this 12 volt DC port and turned on these lights, no interruption, no fuse break, no nothing. It all works very, very well. And that's what I wanted to make sure, because I didn't want this DC volt or this DC in port to be broken any single way. I didn't want to have any interference. All right, guys. So what are my thoughts and my opinions on the lights? First off, I love the fact that it was kind of a surprise that they came with 4 different lights. I love the fact that when it said it came with 2 lights, it was 2 in each box. Love it, because it gave me so much more freedom. I thought it was just going to be 2 light bars, and I was just going to, have them right here. But I had a surprise and got 2 more because I guess I didn't read correctly or whatnot. And I have the 4 lights, and it gives me so much light. I love how much light these put out. It is so great. And I love the construction of the light. The lights are designed really well, they're constructed really well, they're super durable, they're strong, and I love the fact it's got this on-off switch. It makes it so easy to turn them on and off. I don't have to press a button. I didn't have to hardwire a switch into the plastics anywhere or into the Jeep to be able to turn on the lights. I just simply walk up, turn it on, turn it off. It's great. That was just backwards, so turn it off, turn it on. One day I'll get it corrected. We're just gonna keep going, right? But I love how much light they put out. The other thing I love is they don't really get hot. This is not hot at all. They're not putting off any real heat, and they do not draw a lot of power. With all 4 of them on, it barely draws any power from the battery of the Jeep whatsoever. And so what that means is I don't have to worry about the Jeep not starting the next morning if I'm using the lights for several hours at camp. Or if I'm cooking and things like that, I don't have to worry about, oh, I left them on while I was cooking because I needed the light and the battery's now dead. I don't have to worry about it because they don't draw a lot of power. The other thing I liked is that it came with the 2 different styles. And what I mean by that is you had the brackets to do a hard install, or you had the 2-sided adhesive tape to do a hard install, but provided you a little more freedom on where you wanted to put them. Now, I personally did not want to hard install these lights. I didn't want to use the brackets because I didn't want to install them into the fiberglass at the top with the nails and the screws. I didn't, obviously you can't put those into the screw or into the glass of the rear window. So the adhesive tape worked great as an option, and it is a super strong adhesive tape. As in, I put these up here, they haven't moved. I have gone over trails here in Colorado, New Mexico, and Moab, and these have not moved or budged or made any noise whatsoever. They are solid in there. And we haven't had extreme heat on them yet, so we'll see what happens in the summertime. But they've been in temperatures, in under 20-degree temperatures, and they haven't fallen off, nothing. So it has worked super well. That adhesive tape they provide is amazing. Love it. Right, let's get into some of the things I kind of dislike about the lights. And it's not very much, I'll be honest with you. I love the fact that these lights come this way, the freedom that I got to provide light, and the fact that they are so universal that they can be used for overlanding to provide the solutions of lighting in the back of whether it's a Jeep, a 4Runner, a Tacoma, your own personal build, people that have, you know, alu cab tops or cabs over the back of their trucks or rooftop tents. You can install these in there and wire them to either be a disconnect, a quick disconnect, or a actual hard wire in, and you just always have those lights. And because they're not one vehicle preferenced or anything, they can be used in all these mannerisms to provide you light, and that is super, super helpful. And for me, when I was presented with this opportunity, literally all I thought about was, how can I provide light at camp? Because I don't have a light bar on the back and I need to have light at camp, and I don't want to just use a lantern. And this was an amazing find. Let's get into some of my dislikes about these lights, and it's not much. First off, I really, really dislike the fact that they came sort of pre-wired. I wish they would have just, in the sense of pre-wiring them, gave you a big ton of wire that ran with each light, at least, you know, 3 or 4 feet long of wire connected to each light. I get that's a lot of wire, but it would have made life so much simpler because I could have just installed this light and then ran the wiring to where I wanted it, and then cut it, and, you know, cut it, stripped it, spliced it, put it together into my power system, instead of having this much wire and then having to provide my own wire for the length of which I want to do it. Which I get that's probably why they did it, but provide more distance in the wire. Having this much wire and then having the wiring to that and then to the other thing, it's just, to me, it was just a big pain in the butt, and it could have been solved by like 3 or 4 feet of wire attached to it that you could have ran to wherever. And I'd rather have, you know, excess wire that I gotta cut instead of, now I gotta wire it in 2 different spots and fight with it. It just was a bit of a hassle, and I didn't like that. And the other knock I have against it is still kind of with the wiring aspect of things, is the wire they provide is super thin. So it was a little bit of a, you know, hard time connecting the wires to the connectors because all my wiring is a little bit thicker. Didn't want to buy a small wire so that, and connectors so they would connect, so it was a little more of a hassle, because to me that wiring is like if you took an Ethernet cable cord, pulled it back, spliced it, and exposed the wire. It's super thin. I was not a fan of how thin the wiring was. Like, in general, I just didn't like the wiring on these lights at all. It was just too short and it was too damn small. Make it thicker, because then you can get a better connection when you're trying to wire up the lights. And honestly, that's the only real nick I have about these lights. I have no complaints. I've had these lights on the Jeep for just over a month and a half almost. End of this week becomes a month and a half. Amazing lights. They've worked so well. I can't tell you guys how well these lights really worked. Like, they work so well and provide so much light and just don't draw a lot of power. They don't produce a lot of heat. And just what I love is the universal ability of these lights for camp lights. In your vehicle lights, you know, your setup, it is universal for you, your rig, and your setup for your camp. And I love that. And I love the fact they provided different brackets and things. Like, everything about these lights up to the wiring is amazing. I love these lights. So if you guys want these lights, head over to Auxito LED. There will be a link in the description that takes you, 1, to their site, and 2, directly to these light bars, because they are kind of hard to find on their site. It looks like they recently updated their site from a month and a half ago, so they were a little bit harder to find. And when I did a search on them, they have a lot of different light bars for different services, but there's only one kind of like dome light bar for interiors, and it was a little bit hard to find. So the links are in the description below, guys, so go check them out. I think this is a really cool solution, and it wasn't expensive. Now granted, they provided me these lights to test and review, but these lights were under $50, guys. You got 4 different LED lights for under $50 that you didn't have to build yourself off of Amazon, or didn't have to go find off of some other site that is kind of a one size fits one size. This is you get one size light, and you get 4 of them, and they fit in multiple different kinds of scenarios. So if you guys are interested, the links are in the description. Go check them out. Auxito LED. Thank you guys for joining me here in the garage. Please like and subscribe. Our goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I know that seems like a kind of minute and small goal for channels, but that is our goal because we are just getting ourselves rolling. So that is our goal by the end of the year, and your guys' help gets us even closer, because about 97% of everyone that visits the channel is not a subscriber. So go ahead, hit the subscribe button. We have tons of cool content that is already on the channel and new stuff that is coming. And the more I do this, the better I get, so the content gets even better. And we have some surprises coming in the future, not too far in the future, probably later this month. It's April, so end of the month they should be getting here, making for our next few adventures coming in May, because we do have several trips planned. Even better, so if you guys want to see what that's like, click the subscribe button, you'll get the notifications. You guys can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and we are also on Patreon if you would like to help support our channel and what I do and my explorations and want to be a part of it. Go ahead over the Patreon, and whatever you would like to, support us with, we are greatly appreciative of anything that you guys can provide. What you'll also find on Patreon is you'll get some more exclusive content that you don't always get here on YouTube, because certain things I don't always put here or on my social media platforms. It's very much exclusive to Patreon. You get my waypoints, my campsites, coordinates, and I have them. Though I use Onyx Off-Road, which is not a sponsor of the channel, I do put them into a spreadsheet so that they are kind of a universal use. So you guys will be able to find that there, and you guys will find just more updates that I just don't necessarily put all over my social media platforms. So if you guys would like to, support us, we are greatly appreciative. And once we grow a little bit more numbers, we will have weekend meetups where we go overlanding. The trip's planned, you guys get to show up, and we just have a good old time. So that is to come later on down the road once we get more people. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. So, hello, let's focus in on me, shall we? Thank you. So they can say, well, this is my cooking area. I'm using the back of the Jeep, the table, the front. We are cooking there. And I just lost my light face. There's a little bit of what I ended up